Welcome to episode number 293, where I'm speaking with herbologist Jackie Christensen about the best herbs to use for summer and how to prepare them for internal and external use. And we talk about how to prepare these external applications to protect our skin during sun exposure, bug bites, and lots more. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm very happy to welcome back Jackie Christensen, Ph.D., who is an internationally recognized educator in natural health, herbology, and Ayurveda. She serves as a faculty member for many prestigious colleges, and her achievements include graduating on the Dean's Honor List for the doctoral degree in naturopathy and receiving a master's in Ayurveda. She's also a certified nutritional consultant, master herbalist, and National Ayurveda Medical Association member. Jackie has hosted international study abroad programs, as well as local workshops, online classes, and conferences. Jackie has a private practice in Santa Cruz, California. Jackie, welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you back again.
Hi, Colette. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And it's great to see you again. And I'm happy to be back here on the Elements of Ayurveda.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this podcast recording. And in episode number 281, we discussed the topic of herbology with you. And that conversation was such an interesting conversation. We wanted more. And so in this episode, we're going to delve deeper into individual herbs, and particularly herbs for summer. So I guess the place to start maybe, Jackie, is to talk about the qualities that arise in our environment during the summer season, according to Ayurveda, and what qualities we want to seek out in herbs and why. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So summer, it's, the season, we think of pitta a lot because of, the fire element, and the sun is closer to the earth. We have longer days. So we really associate summer with pitta, with fire, with the sun. And so the qualities that go along with the fire are more hot, sharp, subtle, light, oily. So we really want to try to counterbalance that with herbs that are cooling, bitter, sweet, astringent. Those are all good kind of qualities of herbs to help counterbalance the heat that we experience from being closer to the sun and feeling more of that solar energy. So typically, during the summer, we do feel more heat and more hot, sharp type qualities, but, weather patterns do vary. And it is also important to pay attention to, the environment that you're in and the weather patterns that you're experiencing, because summers can also be cool. They can be rainy. They can be foggy. They can be humid. You can get more rainstorms and thunderstorms. So if you're experiencing more kind of wet, damp weather, then you're going to want to counterbalance that with more kind of warm, pungent, and drying qualities. So it really is more important to pay attention to your daily experience. If you're exposed to a lot of heat daily, if you've had a lot of hot, sunny days, if you live in an environment that's, hotter and drier, more desert-like conditions, or high altitude where you're closer to the sun, you're going to experience more internal heat, more pitta is going to become elevated. And, so you're going to want to reduce it. But if you're, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you live, in San Francisco or where I'm at in Santa Cruz, it's been, really foggy and kind of cold. So we haven't quite hit that peak pitta season yet here. So I'm not feeling like I have a lot of heat in my body. I still feel like I've got this like kapha kind of spring damp energy going on.
Right, exactly. And it's so glad you mentioned to pay attention to the qualities in your personal environment, because we say summer, but summer can mean a lot of different things to a lot of, a lot of different people. And so paying attention to the qualities of the environment local to where you are, and then using that Ayurvedic principle of bringing in the opposite to pacify, right?
Exactly. And checking in with your body, paying
Course.
attention to like looking at your tongue is a good way to see how well you're digesting food. And does it look red? Does your skin look red? Have you been exposed to more sun? And I feel like when I'm in the sun a lot too, like my skin starts to feel tender and just kind of like tight. So I can tell like, oh, I've spent too much time in the sun today, or for a few days, because sometimes I'll be out more regularly. Just kind of depends on what I'm doing. But during those days, I can feel the pitta kind of building up in my skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's also a pitta organ. So just really like checking in and seeing like how you're feeling. Because when you feel pitta, it can also, affect your emotions. So you might have a shorter temper, you might get more agitated easily, a short fuse. So if you're starting to kind of, lean towards those type of emotions, then that's also an indicator that, pitta's getting a little out of balance.
Great advice there. And so can you take us through some internal herbs that you would recommend for the summer season, a hot, sharp, light, oily kind of quality? What would we be bringing in, and maybe the effect on the body and mind of these herbs that you're going through?
Absolutely. So what I really like to include in my kind of daily diet or daily routine are himas, which are herbs that are macerated in either room temp water, overnight, or cool water, preferably outdoors, under the moonlight. And that really helps preserve the volatile oils. It helps preserve the more kind of like delicate properties of the herb, and it also infuses the herb with that cooling lunar energy. So to make a hima, you can just choose your herbs, and we'll talk about herbs in a minute. But you choose your herbs, and then you can just, pour cool water into, a vessel. I usually use just a gallon mason jar. You can use Traditionally, Ayurveda uses a ratio of 1 to 16. So 1 would be the parts of the herb and 16 would be the parts of water. If you want to do this from a Western perspective, we use a weight to volume ratio. So that would be the weight of the herb compared to the volume of the water. So we would use 50 grams to 1,000 milliliters. So those are kind of the weights and measurements, typical Western policies, and then also, Ayurvedic formulation. And then there's also the folk method, which you can use. And the folk method is generally what we do at home when we're just making tea. We're, kind of scooping tea out and pouring some water over it, and we're not weighing or measuring anything. Mm-hmm. And that's also, great for just general home use. But I would recommend using more of like weights and measurements if you have a formula that you really want to replicate and reproduce and be able to make the same type of hema every time. Then you would want to weigh that out and document that a little bit more.
Okay, great. And so it is important to use cool or room temperature water, right? Because that brings out certain qualities of the herbs and making sure that it's not hasn't got a heating quality.
Exactly. And the moon also helps because it
Yeah,
infuses it with that lunar energy.
love that.
So the other two types of, water type extractions you can do require heat. So it's when you require that, when you infuse it with heat, it's also infusing that solar energy. So it's going to have more heating properties to the
Mm.
herbs. Um, so I would recommend doing more of those types of extractions. Obviously, it depends on the plant part. If you're working with more kind of woodier pieces or harder pieces, then you need more heat to really, break down the cellular structure of the plants and extract those phytochemicals. So if you have seeds or barks or roots that are hard, you're going to need heat to extract those. So that's where you would use, a decoction or an infusion. Um, but with the cool water, there's also, flowers are in season this time of year in the summer. So we'll use, seasonal flowers, which also have a cooling energy. And they also have a lot of like really delicate properties and volatile oils. And if we expose those to heat, it can actually burn them off and destroy them.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Great. Well, that's such great advice, and I love that you're giving us the parts and the amounts to use as well. So, would you like to get into some herbs or seeds that we can use?
Oh, great. Yeah. So there's, a handful of herbs. These are all, good ones that you can grow in your garden or, easily find and are readily available. The yanka is coriander seeds, and those are, they're a pretty kind of light, delicate seed. You can even, just kind of crush it with your fingers. You don't need a mortar or pestle or anything. But you can just kind of like lightly break those seeds up and make a hema with the coriander seeds. Coriander has properties of bitter and cooling, and it pacifies vata, pitta, and kapha. So coriander is a great herb to use in the summer because it really helps with that kind of pitta in digestion.
Mm.
So if you're having any type of heat in your digestive system, any acidity or burning or like acid reflux, coriander can be great for that. It's also good for Agni Deepana and Amapachana. So it really helps with digestion and absorption. It helps increase our Agni. So it stimulates the digestive fire. It can also be used for the urinary tract, which is another,
Mm.
great use for coriander. One of the root causes or the nidanas for, UTIs, is, spending too much time in the summer and the heat. So UTIs are more common, more frequent during the summer. So, coriander can be used to help, clear out, the urinary tract, reduce any urinary problems, reduces burning in the urethra, can be an antidote for kidney stones. So it's really calming and soothing for the urinary tract, which is another kind of area of the body that we want to focus on in the summer and help cool that area down.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah, and it's also really good for allergies and hay fever. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have these lingering summer allergies that can, kind of stick around. And so a coriander hema can also be great for, reducing hay fever like symptoms. So all that kind of itchy, kind of burning, dry throat, sore throat. And we could also do a hema and use it as an eye wash for any kind of, itchy eyes associated with allergies can be another. another good use for coriander. I would recommend purchasing an eye cup at your pharmacy store.
Great idea. Flavor is delicious with coriander seeds, with the
Oh, it is
hema.
so delicious. It really has a lot of floral tones to it,
Yeah,
and it doesn't taste like it does when you use it as a culinary spice. I feel
right.
like, have you ever tried coriander essential oil?
No.
Try it. It's really amazing. It just has this
Oh.
beautiful floral bouquet. Has a really like just pretty delicate aroma to it. And the hemas are really good, just you can sip on them daily. Don't have to worry about any kind of contraindications. Um, and then there's also, traditionally they would put in their coriander hema a little bit of rock sugar in there for pitta pacifying as well.
Okay. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
something I definitely I'm doing already daily. I love it. And like you said, it's got a real delicate kind of floral flavor and absolutely delicious and great to keep pitta under control.
Absolutely. And then, what I found too is that for some people who really like black pepper a lot, and, black pepper can be pretty spicy and heating. If they're not quite willing to give up, somebody's got a lot of pitta and they're not willing to give up their black pepper, I'll have them just I'll have them put half coriander in with their black peppers, corns in their pepper
Mm.
grinder. So then
Ah,
they're still getting, a little bit of black pepper taste, but they're also getting, the cooling properties from the coriander as well.
great balance. That's great.
Another herb I really like is Pushpi, which is
Mm.
hibiscus. And hibiscus is another like beautiful flower that blooms during the summer and is in season. It has astringent, sweet, and cooling properties. It's a hemostatic and a demulcent. It's also an antispasmodic and a refrigerant. So it really helps kind of cool the body internally. It's great for the blood. So it's great for Raktavaha Shrotas and Artavaha Shrotas. It's a great cooling herb and it's good for the body for treating fever. It's also good for the hair and skin. And it helps remove heat from the kidneys as well and the reproductive system.
Mm.
So it's another really good one, that you would use to make a hema with because it has more of those delicate properties that you wouldn't want to heat up hibiscus because we use the flowers. And the flowers are also, used for a lot of ceremonial purposes. They're used for meditation to enhance attention and used in different ceremonies. I also like to pair hibiscus with rose flowers as well.
Mm.
And that makes a really good hema and can be really, beneficial for the heart and the blood, both emotionally and physically.
Mm. I find hibiscus very astringent,
Yeah, it is.
right?
It's
It really
astringent.
feels like that drying
hmm
effect in the mouth.
It's astringent. And it's also, it can lower blood pressure. So, if you're somebody who already has low blood pressure, just be cautious of that and
Okay.
consuming too much, hibiscus. The rose is nice to kind of counterbalance that, astringent taste to it.
Yeah.
And I'll also use aloe vera. I'll just, get the full leaf and then you can fillet the leaf so you can take the skin off and then scoop the gel out on the inside and then put that in the blender, blend it up, and then you'll have the gel that you can just drink. And that's a really good pair with the hibiscus to kind of alleviate that kind of astringency that you're talking about. because the
Oh,
aloe
yeah.
vera has a lot of this like soothing kind of demulcent properties.
That's true. It's like it's slimy and unctuous, right? That's a good
Hmm.
point. So with the hibiscus, yeah, it would counter that astringency.
It also, it's sweet. And so the rose goes really well with that. And with a little bit of aloe vera would be a great combination
I love that.
for a nice kind of cooling. And you could put the rose and the hibiscus together in your hema and put that outside with water overnight. And then with the aloe, you would just, scoop the gel out, put it in the blender to blend it and mix it up. And then you would, after you strain your hema, so you just want to soak it for, no more than, I would say even 12 hours would be the longest I would macerate hema overnight.
Mm.
If you start to go too long, things can start to ferment and get funky.
Yes, they
So
can.
they definitely do. And really with the hemas too, they don't have a long shelf life. So water extracts really have just, depending on the herb you're using, it would be, 12 to 24 hours. So there's something that you want to make fresh daily.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I would just, put it out at night, before you go to bed, and then strain it in the morning, before the sun comes out and the sun starts to hit it. Strain it out. And then after you get your aloe ready, you can mix that in with it.
Okay, great. So you get just once the aloe's blended down to a liquid consistency, then just mix that in with the hema.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and
Great.
that's a great way to consume the aloe vera. And aloe vera is really good, for the liver, which is also a pitta organ. It's great for the spleen, the blood. It's wonderful for women's health through for all stages of life for women. So for menopause, it's really beneficial for menses. It's great for endometriosis and, any inflammatory vaginal conditions that can, kind of heat up and become more inflamed during the summer when we're exposed to just, the natural cycles of the doshas during the seasons. Any kind of inflammation in the body can be exacerbated by the pitta season or, during the summertime if we're experiencing a lot of heat.
Yeah, aloe is just it really is like just the friend to women. It's so great internally and externally. I know we'll talk about externally in a moment, but it really is an all-rounder and tridoshic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for vata, pitta, and kapha. And it's really a rejuvenative tonic. So it is
Mm.
one of the best like alternatives, which are blood cleansers, for the liver and the spleen. And because of that, it really does help the body with, so many different functions because it is, nutritive and also cleansing at the same time. Once you have like those kind of two properties together, it can really, it helps the body eliminate waste. It's not going to be too heavy where it's going to weigh the body down because it is cleansing and nourishing at the same time.
Mm. And I see
Um,
it now a lot in local health food stores, sometimes in supermarkets. So it's great to see the big leaf that you can purchase. And I would like to cover when you have time is to talk about how much to take because it can be a mild laxative, right?
it can be a laxative, exactly. And that's part of, pulling that pitta heat out of the body,
Hmm.
is what the herb really helps with. So, for general home use, I would say, not more than a tablespoon per day.
Hmm.
And then anything over that, speak with your Ayurvedic practitioner and get recommendations from a professional.
Mm. And I actually have one other question on aloe as well, because you want to use the inner leaf, like you were talking about filleting the inner leaf, because
Yeah.
the outer leaf, the green part, has a whole nother set of qualities and properties, right?
Yeah. So the outer leaf can be toxic. So you really don't want to consume parts from the outer leaf
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
green parts. In the inside, it'll be kind of this clear gel, and that's, the part that you want to scrape out and use. And aloe vera, it's also, it's an acquired taste. It tastes pretty bitter. So, you can taste it by itself. And I think a lot of people have difficulty, taking aloe just like a teaspoon or, a smaller amount. So that's why we're like really mixing it in with the rock de pushbee and the rose can be a really nice combination to help kind of balance the astringency from the hibiscus and add that really nutritive value from the more cleansing action from the other herbs.
Absolutely. Yeah, extremely bitter, but definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it. But it is and it's so good, just for the gums and the teeth
Mm-hmm.
and for oral health. And as you drink it, it really is it's a demulcent, so it helps cool all the inflammation, all the way through the alimentary canal.
Yeah.
So it's so many people have food sensitivities and allergies, and with that comes a lot of inflammation and leaky gut. And having an herb like aloe just regularly, small amounts, less than a tablespoon per day, in the diet can really help reduce that inflammation. And once the inflammation is reduced, then, the tissues can start to repair. And that's where aloe really helps benefit with tissue repairing.
Wonderful. Yeah. So beneficial. All these so far, wonderful. Now, are you going to go back to rose? Because I don't want to skip over rose.
Yeah, so rose is another great one that is, a good in season. So this would be where we would use rose petals. So we could use rose as another type of hema or hot infusion, and it's a really good, has high loaded in vitamin C. So it's great. It has a lot of antioxidant properties. It's really good for building your immunity. And a lot of times, something that people may not be aware of is that, exposure to the sun. Yes, if we're exposed to, UVB rays, it can help, increase, vitamin D3 and help the body synthesize vitamin D3. So there's, UV rays that are good, but there's also when UV rays are bad, and that's when we're overexposed to ultraviolet radiation and we start to experience, redness, sunburning. It can cause autoimmune type issues. And, that's where vitamin C, antioxidants, can really be helpful. And that's where rose plays a great role in.
Yeah, and it's so delicious. I love rose in summertime. It's funny, I can't drink it in the cooler months, but in summer I just love my rose tea.
Yeah, yeah, I love a good rose tea too. It really does have a great taste to it and a wonderful bouquet. And
Mm.
rose, can be also has so many external purposes as well. So it can be used as a spritzer to help kind of cool your skin down, and all that vitamin C really helps repair your skin. And it, can also be good for cooling your eyes down.
Mm.
So it's another good one if your eyes are feeling red, if you've had a lot of exposure to the sun, you could do, a rose water eye wash. Rose water foot bath is another like really amazing way to treat yourself at the end of the day too.
Lovely. And it does have an affinity for the blood and Roctodatu as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a blood builder. It helps build the blood. It's an alterative. So what that means is the blood cleanser. So it helps, remove impurities from the blood.
I'm going to jump in here to tell you some very exciting news. I'm finally hosting a Ayurveda rejuvenation retreat in Bali with Dr. Sujata from Amrita Siddhi Ayurvedic Clinic. That's where I worked from 2014 to 2015. And finally, after all these years of talking about it, we're going to do a retreat together. The dates are December 4th to 10th, 2023. It's an all-inclusive retreat. You'll get consultations, Ayurvedic medicines, treatments, Ayurvedic food, and you'll be in this beautiful healing cocoon of Amrita Siddhi Ayurvedic Clinic. You can check out the video and all the details on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Just click on the link in the show notes or visit my website and click on the events tab. And I hope to see you in Bali in December. Okay, let's get back to my conversation with Jackie.
So those are all some kind of good examples of, more cooling herbs that you would use on, hotter days when it is feeling more hot. And you've been exposed to more of the traditional sun kind of heat, fire elements that we think about in the summer. But there's also, cooling days that we have during the summer too. And so during those days, you can always add a little bit of citrus. So like a lime peel or lemon peel would be a good addition to, to the hibiscus and rose and aloe. Hema, or you could even do like a turmeric and ginger lemonade would be a really good kind of summer drink if it's been, a little cooler. And then you might want to try more, kind of warming herbs. Ginger is also like a good herb for the summer because it does have a sweet vipak. So it's not, super heating as it's affecting the body post-digestively. So like a little ginger lemonade with turmeric could be a great one. And turmeric's another really good herb that has a lot of, antihistamine and free radicals and anti-inflammatory properties to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when we think about summer, inflammation, it's a lot of pitta. There's a lot of pitta involved with inflammation, with the heat and the redness and the pain. They're all pretty warm, sharp qualities. So, anti-inflammatory things can really be helpful.
Yeah, and I could imagine that say if you have a pitta kapha kind of aggravation going on, that if you mix some of the turmeric with the aloe too, because turmeric tends to be a bit more astringent with that unctuousness of aloe, that's a good combo for something with a kapha pitta aggravation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then maybe ginger if it was a vata pitta aggravation, maybe mixing something like ginger with aloe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great combination too. You could do the ginger, aloe, and turmeric. Could be a really good combination too.
Yeah.
And even a little bit of coriander in there.
Get all the benefits.
And it's good even when I do, the more cooling hemas, like during the summer, I will add like a little bit of, lime peel or something, something that has, a little bit of the sour or fire element in there, just to balance out the formula.
Right. And to get a little bit of all the taste.
Exactly. Get all the taste, balance the formula.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Make it more bioavailable and digestible for the body. So, that fire element really helps. And I think that's, traditionally in Ayurveda, they'll add like a little bit of, like black salt would be something common to make in like a lemonade type beverage, or, it would be like lemon and ginger, and they would put like a little bit of black salt in there. Yeah. So that kind of wraps up, internal herbs and, paying attention to your weather, how you're feeling internally, what's going on externally, and choosing the herbs and preparing the herbs. Hemas are great. If it is, cool out, you can always do hot infusion, or Fanta is another way to prepare herbs, but it would probably be a little too heating for the flowers because they're pretty delicate. But you could do that with the coriander.
Okay, great. And Fanta being a hot infusion.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Just with basically boiling water.
Yep, just like making a tea. So just like
Yeah.
steeping it in hot water and then straining.
Excellent. Great. And so now, thank you for that. Those internal herbs are great. And I'd love to discuss now taking care of our skin. We've already touched on this a little, but it really is a priority during summertime because we're so exposed. Sunburn,
Yeah.
bugs.
Sunburn, skin cancer.
Yeah.
There's just, really a lot of issues that we can have with our skin due to exposure. So it's a big topic, and it definitely goes beyond like having a bronze skin and like looking good in your short shorts. So really there's a lot of different oils that I like to make during the summer, because a lot of the oils that I use in the summer, they come from the aerial parts of the plants. So, the leaves, the flowers, the stems, all the parts that are above ground. And those are herbs that can be used, to make herbal oils. And we can use those herbal oils for topical application, for, first aid, bee stings, bug bites, itchy things, all the kind of like first aid summer stuff. So this is really when I'll use a lot of comfrey is a good herb to harvest in the summer. You can use comfrey, either the leaves or the roots. In the summer, I would harvest the leaves, but comfrey leaves are really good for bone and tendon issues. They're anti-inflammatory and astringent, and they have really powerful wound healing properties that are great for trauma. So any kind of like sports injuries that you might have this summer, comfrey is a great herb to use topically. And if you have comfrey kind of in your garden, or you can just use the leaves as a poultice, like really quickly if you have bruising or an injury that you want to apply it to. But it's an amazing rasayana. It's great for pitta and vata and rasa, and mostly asthidhatu. So it is a great bone repair, and it really helps with fractures or varicose veins or tendons or ligament damage. It's really high in mucilage, and it helps repair the skin really quickly if you have any type of external damage. But it's something that if you do have a cut, that it can cause the external skin to heal much quicker than kind of like the deeper part of the wound. So you have to be like really careful with that because it can lead to abscesses. So I wouldn't necessarily use it for a lot of like open wounds, but it is good for, bruising is a great one, or joint issues, trauma, if you're playing soccer and you got kicked, or something like that would be a good use for comfrey.
Okay. And it has little purple flowers?
It does. It has like little purple flowers that are kind of like drooping over. The leaves are big broad, so it's usually referred to as like broadleaf. And veiny, very veiny on the undersides of the leaves, and then hairy on the top side. Yeah, but it's a common flower, common weed, common plant. And you if you're just like out and you injure yourself, you can, make a poultice with the comfrey leaves, and that can be a great way to kind of use natural first aid.
Excellent. And so you're using the leaves mostly rather than the flowers.
We're using the leaves. Yep, you can also use the roots, but I would wait to use the roots until fall.
Okay.
So during the summer, there's more kind of energy goes into the aerial parts of the plant. And then
Yes.
as we move into, fall, then energy starts to move more internally and down into the roots. So that's how you see out in nature, like a lot of the leaves start to fall off of the plants, and the aerial parts start to die off. So all of that energy is kind of concentrated deeper into, the roots and into the bark. It's kind of like the same thing that happens with us throughout the season. In the summer, our heat is more dispersed evenly throughout the body.
Mm.
Jathar Agni is a little lower. And then, as we get into the cooler seasons, the heat starts to accumulate more in the core. And that's when our Jathar Agni is, a little higher, a little more powerful. So we can eat more of the more difficult to consume foods, and cheese or meats or weeds, like all those things that are a little heavier and difficult to digest, are recommended more so in the wintertime.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely. And great point that we should be eating the above ground energy, high energy parts of the plants in summer.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, because those are the parts that are really blossoming right now, and those
Yeah.
are the parts that they're just more vital. There's more prana in those parts of the plant, and that's where you're going to get that healing energy from.
Mm, excellent. Great. The ones that we talked about previously for the HEMA, a lot of those are great for external use, right? For the skin as well. Aloe vera, which you already mentioned, is really good for the skin. Coriander,
Yeah,
making a pulp from coriander leaves.
definitely. You can use all of those internally and externally. So we talked about a few uses for, rose as well, as more so as like spritzers and
Mm,
foot baths. Um, and, aloe, we didn't talk much about aloe for external use, but I really do, aloe also helps block UVA and UVB rays. So it provides a natural balance and moisture, and it helps kind of reverse the effects that sunburns can have on the immune system. It's really high in vitamin E, and that is great for the skin. Um, and it's great for, all kinds of burns. So if
mm,
it's a sunburn, if it's a chemical burn, vitamin E is going to be really good for that because it helps with the production of collagen, and it helps with that fibroblast production, which helps repair the skin. And I think, there's other, like, I really like to use tamanu oil, and that's also known as Indian Dumba oil or Indian laurel or laurel wood.
mm.
And that is also a broadband oil. So it protects against UVA and UVB. And that's it's a low SPF. It's like about a 11, I would say, is what the
Okay.
research has shown.
Okay.
But it's something you can just use a small amount, on your skin regularly as, a moisturizer or an oil. It's a little thicker. It's kind of viscous. It's a deep green color, so it has a like really nice kind of herbally smell that I like a lot. But it is a thicker oil, so I'll usually do like a little bit of a rose water spritzer. Or what's really good as a spritzer is a green tea.
Ooh.
or a black tea spritzer for your skin. Because green tea is really good for protecting against the effects of ultraviolet radiation and helps. It's the polyphenols in the green tea that really helps with the UV damage, and the tannic acid helps kind of remove that heat from sunburns. So you can make a little like green tea spritzer, and so that your skin will be a little kind of moist and dewy, and then add a little bit of that tamuna oil, and then that will just kind of absorb into your skin really nice, and it won't be like a kind of thick oily thing.
Okay, great. And so when you're making the green tea or the black tea, are you making like a Fanta? Are you making a hot infusion and then allowing that to
Yeah,
cool?
so like
Okay.
I would do. You could even do a Fanta. You could do a Hema. Either one. You could do
Okay.
either one with the green tea,
Okay.
and you can add a little bit of vitamin E oil,
Mm.
and that can help extend the shelf life of it a little bit.
Oh, great. And then the name of the other oil, the deep green oil, it's Indian laurel oil. And what was the first name you said? The other name?
Tamanu, so it's Tamanu.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful oil. It's great for preventing scars, I think is a big one, and kind of like reversing damage to skin. So it's a really good oil for healing the skin. It's just amazing. But it
Excellent.
is a little thicker and a little herbally. So it takes a certain person who likes those kind of oils. But it's a great one to use externally for your skin, especially after you've been, exposed to too much sun. Um, Another one I really like is sea buckthorn oil.
Oh, I don't know
Have you
that one
heard of that
either.
one? Oh, this is a really good one. And it's been used for a long time in Turkey for skincare. And there's just a lot of interesting research out on sea buckthorn oil, but it has really high levels of linolenic acid, and it is really great for its photoprotective and anti-inflammatory properties. So sea buckthorn oil is another one that I like to use in more like an after sun kind of serum that I'll
Mm.
make with sea buckthorn oil and aloe vera gel and Irish moss.
Mm.
So the Irish moss kind of gives it like a gel type quality to it, and Irish moss is really good for healing the skin. It's kind of has a lot of properties similar to aloe, except for, it comes from the sea. So it has more of that, kind of like healing nutritive. It's really been enriched by the minerals and fluids from the sea. So with Irish sea moss, it's, when you're shopping for it, definitely make sure you find one that's tested. So it doesn't have any type of like heavy metal contamination.
Right. And what format are you buying that sea moss in? Is it dried sea moss or are you buying it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's dry, and then you just boil it in some water, just at a low simmer for like 20 minutes, and
Mm.
it'll thicken and turn it into this kind of like thick pot of gel. And then you can strain out the kind of large chunks, but then you'll have this nice thick gel that's kind of I would say it has a smoother consistency than like aloe vera does. It feels like a really nice light cream.
Mm.
So I would boil a little bit of, Irish moss. I would say maybe like a half a cup with 6 cups of water for 20 minutes, and then strain it out. So just boil it at a low simmer, strain it, and then, strain out all the kind of larger pieces. And then you'll have this really nice, like thin, gel. And then you can add a little bit of sea buckthorn oil to that and blend it up in the blender. And the sea buckthorn, it's this really like beautiful, bright orange oil. But when you dilute it like that, it turns into this really pretty yellow oil. So you just add, I would say, maybe a tablespoon of the sea buckthorn oil. And that's going to be a really great after sun skin serum.
Great. That sounds amazing. There's so many wonderful herbs we could use in the skin, but one I would definitely love to cover too is neem from the, Eastern herbology of Ayurveda, because that's so
Yeah,
associated with the skin, right?
it is a great oil for the skin. And it's a really good one for all the issues with bugs, and it makes a great natural insecticide is what I find myself using neem for the most during the summer. So you can use that as a bug repellent, and neem it's a little thicker too. So it's one of the kind of like thicker, goopier oils, and it has a very distinct aroma to it. But with neem, I would probably, if I was going to use it externally as a bug repellent, I would dilute it with a little bit of sunflower oil. It's really going to cool that heat down. It's great for the liver. It's really good kind of bitter properties for the liver. So it's, anything that's going to be bitter and target the liver is going to help pull that heat out. Appreciate neem, not only, for me, but also, as a pesticide for my plants as well.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, so you can use it, in your garden, even if you, plant a little bit of neem, or with the oil, you got to dilute that down because that can be too heavy and kind of suffocate your plants, but you can dilute the neem oil down and use that as a spray for your plants in the summer. Lots of different kind of uses for neem.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to go through these plants and these herbs and the multitude of uses for each one. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, we've got a lot of different applications, internally and externally for neem. And neem is good for the itchy qualities, which a lot of bug bites are associated with.
Great. Yeah. So another winner for the summer months. So Jackie, is there other herbs that you wanted to highlight?
I think, we've covered a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
I do really like calendula too, externally, in the summer. And this is also like a great time to kind of grow calendula. But calendula is another kind of external flower or herb that you can safely use, for all ages. And it's great for, bruising and inflammation of the skin, infections. You can use it on open wounds or cuts. It's great for first aid. It helps with kind of slow healing areas. It really helps kind of cleanse the blood in that area and bring fresh blood in. So it's a really beneficial herb to use this summer, which can be great, for bruising or strains or first aid. So that's another kind of herb that I would say that I like to use this summer for, making herbal oils, and then you can, make that herbal oil into a salve, at some point. But that's a good one to use. Yeah, we talked a lot about the external applications.
And so when you're making an oil with a plant like that, using the flower, the leaf, and then how long are you soaking it for in the oil?
So when we're making oil extracts, it kind of goes through this same, I would say, like digestion process that we use, in our digestive system. So you want to apply heat to that oil so that that herb is more easily extracted and the properties are extracted into the oil. So there's a lot of different methods that you can apply heat. Usually, it depends on the oil, first of all, you're using, because different oils have a, different heat spectrum where you can, a flash point or where the smoke point is, where they get too hot. So you don't want to go above that level. And also, when you heat oils up too high, then essentially you're just, deep frying your herbs, which you don't want to do that either. So most herbalists agree keeping an oil at 120 degrees or below is a good temperature. So I like to just use something simple like a heating pad or a propagation mat or a rooting mat. And there's just set that oil on there, and that just applies like a kind of low consistent heat. So this method works really good for dried herbs and for fresh herbs. For fresh herbs, you have to be cautious of the water content in the herbs. And if there is still water in the herbs, then, water can cause oil to go rancid. So you really have to check your oil every day. And I'll usually do a ratio of 1 to 10. Flowers and aerial parts, they tend to absorb oil pretty easily and readily. So you have to use a fair amount of oil to be able to saturate all of the flowers and the plant parts. So when I say 1 to 10, I'm talking about grams to milliliters. So grams is the weight of the herb and milliliters is the volume of the oil. And I would use a 1 to 10 ratio there, depending on how much herb you have and how much oil you have. So you go out and harvest your herbs, and they're fresh. So then you let them kind of dry for a day or two to release a lot of that moisture content. And then you weigh them out and then determine what that, 1 to 10 ratio looks like. Fresh herbs are hard to break up, but you do want to kind of like break those herbs up. So for me, I found the easiest way to do that is to put the herbs, kind of go through the herbs, remove any parts that are kind of brown or discolored, or, they don't look like they're that vibrant, because they're not going to have a lot of prana. And that's the part of the herb that we really want. We want that, vibrant pranic energy from the herb. So removing all the discolored parts or parts that don't look that healthy, weigh that, figure out your formula of 1 to 10, and then add your choice of oil, and then pour the oil on top of the herb. And then I put that into a blender and I blend it up. And that's a good way to kind of break up the herb super easily with the oil. And then I'll take that combination and I'll use generally like a rooting mat or a heating pad and expose that oil herb combination in a mason jar for 2 weeks, checking it daily, so you want to decant it and smell it, because it will go through a process of digestion where different properties of the plant start to break down, and you can really just observe, smell it, touch it, feel it. And each plant's a little different for how long that process is going to take. So anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And then when you strain it, so then you'll strain it after that, you can see where, the water and the oil separate. So you want to make sure to get all of that water out, because the water can cause the oil to go rancid, and you may have to strain it several times, just to make sure that you got all the oil out and all the water out of the oil.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you have an herbal oil.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for taking us through that. It's great to see the procedure. And thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge. It's just amazing. It's so interesting. And as we finish up here, Jackie, if there's anything else you want to cover before we finish up, and also I'd love for you to tell people how they can find out more about you and your offerings.
Oh, thank you. I think the kind of important takeaways that we talked about were, yes, we're in Pitta season, but really it's important to pay attention to, how you're feeling, the weather you've been experiencing, and, checking in with your Pitta and seeing, is your Pitta getting out of control, or maybe it's not, maybe it's your Kapha or your Vata, and, make sure to address those concerns based on your experiences rather than, what supposedly we're supposed to be experiencing. And then, herbs for hemas, lots of good ones. We talked about rose and hibiscus and aloe and coriander. Those are all great internal options. Aloe vera is a good one as well. External options, we talked about buckthorn oil, tannimu oil, Irish sea moss, green
neem.
or black tea, neem. Yeah. So there's a lot of good options and opportunities to explore and, do your own research as well, and see what kind of oils and herbs work for you.
Yeah. And as we mentioned in our last episode together, see what's happening locally, because what's growing locally is going to be balancing for you in that season.
Yes, exactly. See what's going on locally and, try to focus on the aerial parts in the summer. So, flowers, leaves, stems, anything above ground is going to be more potent and have more energy and more prana right now.
Fantastic. Great. And so where can people go to find out more about you, Jackie?
They can find me at my website, which is practiceayurveda.com. And I have a couple classes coming up, couple workshops this summer.
Great.
So I have a summer skincare, which I'm offering at Cabrillo College, and that is on July 8th. And I also have an herbal salve class on July 8th as well. And then I have an Ayurvedic cooking and self-care, and that's at Cabrillo on July 29th and August 5th. And then we have some things going on at Mount Madonna as well this summer. So we have our monthly mini courses, which are a wonderful way to get your NAMA PACE credits. So you can look at mountmadonnainstitute.org and see what we have for our offerings every month. And then we also have internships for our Ayurvedic practitioner program coming up, and that is August 10th through the 13th. And that is a great time to get an affordable consultation with a knowledgeable group of students who will be graduating shortly.
Fantastic. And those classes, the summer skincare and the herbal salve class and the cooking class, are they in person and online?
Yeah, those are in person at Cabrillo College here in Santa Cruz.
Oh, excellent. So they're just in person. They're not online as well.
Yeah, just in person.
Okay, great to know. Well, I will put those links in the show notes. And Jackie, thank you so much. This was so insightful, so much information. Truly appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Colette. I had a great time, and I look forward to following up with you in the fall.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's schedule a get together for the fall so we can discuss what's happening in that season and what herbs and concoctions we can make.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jackie. Until next time, take good care of yourself.
Okay. You too, Colette. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
So much wonderful information there from Jackie, and I hope you found this episode interesting. If you think that this would be of interest to family or friends, please share it with them. We can spread this wonderful wisdom. And please check out all the links in the show notes. And don't forget, I have that 7-day Ayurveda Rejuvenation Retreat with Dr. Sujata at Amirta Siddhi Ayurvedic Clinic in Ubud, Bali, coming up December 4th to 10th. 2023. I hope you can join us. It's going to be amazing. A healing for our body, mind, and spirit. And you can find those details in the show notes. If you haven't already downloaded or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. You can find me on social media, on Facebook under Elements Healing and Wellbeing, and my new Instagram page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.